I'm gonna take a picture and post it. Look who's running for office.
Hello, everybody. We're gonna get started because Keith Stover wants an ice cream cone before tonight. So there were no votes taken during the closed session. Can I have a motion to seal the minutes, please? Second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed, no. So we'll move on. You're ready, right, Millie? Sorry about that. Public comment first. Any public comment? Any comment? You certainly can.
I just want to point out that we've started with early voting today. So you can come in and vote Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. here at the town hall at the clerk's office. And that will continue up until Monday before Election Day. And Election Day is Tuesday, September 10th. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Millie. The consent agenda, you've all seen. It's a cemetery lot transfer correspondence and minutes. Can I have a motion to approve the consent calendar? Is there a second? All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed, no. Item 5, hold a public hearing and act on proposed amendments to New Shoreham zoning ordinance. This is the definition of amusement ride. Can I have a motion to open the public hearing, please? In a second, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. We are now in public hearing. Any comments on this? I mean, we've talked about it a number of times. You'll recall this is a prospective definition of amusement rides because ours was at best deficient. Doesn't have anything to do with the carousel that currently exists at Aldo's. Is there anybody who would like to speak? David.
David Lewis. So on the third page of the attachment, it was a letter of recommendation to the council. And at the last sentence, they make reference to other things that need to be attended to in the ordinance that they think needs to be looked at. Did anybody ask them what that was? They didn't go out of their way to state what it was. It just seemed.
Well, it's interesting you should say that because I actually went to is the memo from planning? I just have, I went to that planning meeting, if I recall correctly, but I don't remember.
So I'll just read the last sentence then. The planning board noted that there were additional uses in the list of prohibited uses that the zoning ordinance does not yet offer a definition of, including some in the same line as amusement rides. End.
Yeah, honestly, I didn't see that.
It just seems sort of remiss not to bring it to your attention so that you can send it back to the.
I think I don't want to be presumptuous, but I think I speak for everybody on the council that the council would be thrilled if planning would send us anything that, you know, that they think would need to be changed. I happen to personally think that that's how planning ought to work, you know, that when they see deficiencies in the ordinance, because what happens now is that we see them episodically, we try to address them episodically, and you know, you end up kind of kind of chasing a little bit. So if there's anything, and I'll go to the next planning and.
You know, my
say-
personal opinion is that this is just wasting the council's time by bringing the same document back over and over again for, for additional corrections.
We had this experience with another one recently and it's.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, David. All right, can I have a motion to close the public hearing? What? I was gonna close the public hearing and then we're gonna discuss an act. Can I have a motion to close the public hearing? Second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. The ordinance is now before us. Martha?
It doesn't seem very, within a defined area.
Can you just,
That's all it says is within a defined area. It doesn't say. There are no limits on size other than the limits in the zone on height and such. And, it just feels like it's one of these other horrible nightmare things that's going to plague some other council.
so I see what you mean. A part of I assume I shouldn't say I assume. This is a prohibited thing. It's not permitting it in certain areas or in areas of, or, you know, buildings of a certain size or in particular zones. These types of rides are prohibited, and the challenge was that the zoning board facing, Karen, please feel free to weigh in here if I'm misrecollecting. The challenge that the zoning board had is that we did not have a robust definition of what constituted an amusement ride. So you had this argument over what's an amusement ride and what's a game. Is that?
Yes, in essence, that's it. So what happened was you have a general prohibition section in your ordinance that strictly prohibits amusement parks and amusement rides, but you didn't have a definition for what an amusement ride was.
Right.
So Keith is exactly right. This would add that definition and then it would still be prohibited.
Right.
I thought if it wasn't, what happened to if it's not allowed, it's prohibited?
You have a section in your ordinance that lists several things that are absolutely prohibited. This is
Right.
on that list. Is that what you mean?
No. I thought I don't know, it just feels like it's a rabbit hole.
Are you talking
Well,
about the
the-
general premise that if something's not listed, it's not allowed?
Right.
Okay, so that's a use question. And you do have a use table, and that is a general premise of land use. This is different because the general prohibition section at the top has a paragraph that says the following things are basically nuisances. So you've gone one step farther and say these aren't really uses, they are just nuisances. So someone wouldn't actually wouldn't be in the business of an amusement ride per se. It wouldn't go on your use table. It's more saying it's akin to a rifle range or a field house. It's something that you've determined should be banned in every zone.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other comments from the council? Thoughts? If not, can I have a motion to approve this ordinance? All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. Item 6, holding a public hearing on the proposed amendment to the Shoreham General Ordinance, fire prevention and protection. I believe the next two, Karen, are things that we overwrote by mistake when we were doing the large matters. Is that, am I right about that?
I am not.
No?
Number 6 is the radio box. This is just, putting general, changing some of the language. because the
Oh,
language has
okay.
specific-
Yep.
You're on to
yep.
the next one.
Yeah, sorry. You're right.
Number 6.
Can I have a motion to open this public hearing, please? Second, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Those no, we're in a public hearing on this new matter. Mary Ann, do you want to walk the council and the crowd through it, please?
Sure. So what we currently have in our ordinance, it states a specific type of alarm system. It states a digital system 3505 receiver that each commercial, and it goes on, which the alarm must be connected to a system via digital radio box. When they adopted this was probably the nomenclature of the time. And this type of system is somewhat antiquated. You can't get parts anymore. So what the language is doing is talking about a commercial alarm system, and it's not getting specific as to what type of alarm system. So as the technology and
Gotcha.
increase and changes, we'll be able to do it.
Great. Is there any comment on this? Anybody want to speak? If not, I'll accept a motion to close the public hearing. Is there a second? All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed, no. Any comment from the council about the ordinance before us? Can I have a motion to approve it? A second? All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. Item 7, this will be a public hearing on the mobile food establishment piece, and that's the one that we mistakenly overwrote. Sorry about that. Sorry to jump ahead. Can I have a motion to open the public hearing, please? Second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. We're in public hearing on this matter. This is the one that you guys in the crowd and certainly at the council table remember that we are doing these large and comprehensive ordinances to conform with the new state law. In doing one of those, we essentially overwrote our mobile food establishment ordinance by mistake, and this is righting that wrong. Is there any comment from the community about that? No? Can I have a motion to close the public hearing? A second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Are there any comments from the council about this one?
So again, this was just to align with state requirements.
It's the ordinance that we mistakenly overwrote. When we did one of those big sort of omnibus zoning things for conformance, we mistakenly deleted this section and we have to add it back in. Can I have a motion to approve this ordinance? A second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Item 8, we have to set public hearings for 3 more zoning ordinances. I think this is Karen's fault.
We like her at some council meetings, Keith. Please be careful.
Come aboard.
So yes, there are 3 additional in the package. There's more coming. The ones that we're talking about tonight are your variance ordinance that is to come into compliance with state law. The legislature changed some things about the findings of fact, probably the biggest change for variances. The next one is special use permits. Similar, they did change some of the findings. There's also some cleanup. You'll see in these drafts, zoning board of review, planning board are changed to permitting authority because there's kind of now some overlap and some things going on. So it's not always going to be the planning board. So you'll see some edits as to that. Also, there's general procedures amendment, that one is kind of similar in the sense that they're adding unified development review, which is a new thing for the town. And counts, procedures are new. Anything that you see big blocked language underlined,
Yeah,
99% of the time is just bringing in the state law,
right.
word for word.
Okay. Thank you, Karen. Millie?
October 7th, please.
All right. October 7th it is.
Okay.
Can I have a motion to set October 7th as the public hearing date for these items? All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. Item 9, discuss and act on a request from Linda Pearson to consider acting on or waiving the town's right of first refusal for her attainable unit A3 at the Salt Pond Settlement Complex. Gail, you want to just come up? But I just want to point out, I think it was Neil, may have been Molly, when this first appeared on our agenda, asked a bunch of questions, a bunch of good questions about sort of how this works. And when you're, you know, it was helpful because, you know, I've actually had a couple of these, you know, because they come up occasionally. And I think important for the community to know that particular development has units that are designated for year-round residents. And the last one was, I think, somebody who worked at Verizon. The town has a right of first refusal that is vested in the documents. I don't know what that's called, whether it's the deed or the
Declaration.
Yeah. So these come before us, you know, occasionally. And it was a great reminder that the fact that people who have been on the council know how it works doesn't mean that people who are new to the council know how it works. So anyway.
Yeah,
I just wanted to get that off.
that is why I asked the
Yeah,
questions, because I hadn't gone through it. And there
Absolutely.
had been a perception by residents that when things have gone through in the past, they are going over the price that they're allowed to be. So that was why I wanted to read the document and understand. And
Sure.
you gave me the feedback and corrected me on a couple of things. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. And if I could, you reminded me, I should have actually presented you with these. This was the analysis I did for Linda back in February.
Great.
Because we wanted to make sure we took the 2/3 market value seriously.
Yeah.
And actually, you brought to my attention to review the documents again. I had reviewed them in February, I reviewed them years ago, and then again recently to determine that we didn't need a third party. They didn't have to hire an appraiser. They could rely on our expertise. So
Right.
that's the document I did. And we also did a CPI index because you're allowed to do that, but that's low. That brought the value to $260,000, and that's wouldn't be fair to the owners of the units
Right.
to
And I
use that
think,
index, because when Lou wrote the documents, he said use the CPI or 2/3 market value, whichever is greater.
and you know, look, there's no one in this room who doesn't have the sensitivity around losing these year-round places. So,
Mhm.
you know, I think they're likely to get more scrutiny rather than less as time goes on. That doesn't mean that there's any problem.
Right.
It's just there's sensitivity to it.
Well, and I'm working on behalf of Linda. I wasn't working on behalf of the buyers. I'm the
Yes.
transaction facilitator for them. So Linda and I put together a statement that they signed when they signed the contract, that they had every intention of following the town, the declaration that outlines what the requirements are, which is to be here as a year-round resident. And so they did. And then I said to them, I had talked to Jennifer about her meeting here when she had sold the one for Chris, from Verizon A5. And she asked the buyer to write a letter to the town council. So I think the girls who are buying this unit may have done that. Because I didn't know them well enough. I just had to know that they understood the regulations.
Right.
Right, and in the document, it says here that, right, section 7.3
It's like
dash one, right, that they
D1,
can't.
yeah.
It, like, so it's for owner occupied. It's residential owner occupied, so it can't be rented. But
Correct.
now with the short-term rental ordinance almost in place, like they wouldn't be able to get a permit to rent it. Do they understand that?
True, we didn't go into those kind of details because the
Right.
short-term rental license isn't in effect yet, but it was made very clear that they're not allowed to rent on a short,
Wait, it's even
on any
here.
term basis, other
Yeah,
than,
here they can't rent it, but they definitely won't be able to get a short-term.
Right.
rental
yeah, I didn't
license
cover
because it's
that
prohibited.
because it's
That's
already
use.
prohibited. And
Not
I also,
Yeah.
To be fair, there have been waivers when people were unable to sell and are moving off.
Right.
correct.
Yeah.
Then they'd come to the council.
Yep.
They did understand that also. If they decide to sell and cannot, they can come to the council and ask to rent year round. In the interim of selling the unit.
Great. Any other questions from the council? Can I have? Yeah. Oh, sorry.
I
Sorry,
think this
Martha.
is probably in all of this, honestly, I didn't read the whole thing. That this is not one of the this project does not count in the affordable housing stock
Correct,
from the state
Yes.
because there was no state or federal money put into it.
correct. This
So
was
that
Lou
clears it.
Gaffett's planned unit development.
Yeah.
And he created the criteria, presented it to the council.
It's on the board.
Yeah, was that in
I was
2000?
then.
Yeah.
Was that long ago?
Yeah.
Can I have a motion to waive the town's right of first refusal on unit A3 at the Salt Pond settlement? Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Thank you, Gail.
Terrific,
Okay,
thank you. And will we receive a letter to that effect? Or,
It's just take
Linda will-
with you, isn't it?
yes, it is. Okay, thank you.
Hey, guys, item 10, discuss an act on request of VVO Real Estate Holding LLC for special temporary permit for the Harborside property, plat 6, lot 107, under section 112 of the zoning ordinance.
Good
Hello
evening
again,
again.
Karen.
Attorney Karen Browning on behalf of the town. I am your land use solicitor. This is a request by the property owner for the Harborside for a section 112 temporary permit. The property owners council, Attorney Josh Parks, is also here tonight. As you know, the property owner had requested a special temporary permit to allow storage containers and tents at the property, which had suffered a fire, I think almost a year ago, a little over a year ago now. That activity would otherwise be prohibited. So there is no storage of containers and tents. The property owner was before the council on this request back in May. At that time, it was asked that my office work with council to come up with a solution as to some screening. After discussion, the parties, we believe, have reached an agreement, and we're here to talk to you about that tonight. The intent is to construct a white PVC fence along both Water Street and Chapel Street. I have some photographs of what is intended. Along Water Street, the fence will be 6 feet high But in order
On top of that.
but on, below that, there is going to be, right below it, we were gonna do some sort of, painted wood to make sure that the the fence sits on top of that so that it will minimize the view of anything behind it. Along, Chapel Street, it will just be the 6-foot, PVC fence. We believe that the perception and view from the pedestrian walkway on Chapel is a little less. You're not going to see as much from that viewpoint. The fencing is to remain all year round. Obviously, we're all hopeful that construction starts soon, but you never know. So we would expect that fence to stay up. It will be taken down and the containers and the tents removed as soon as construction on the new building starts or the temporary permit expires. So I'm happy to answer any questions. Again, counsel for the applicant is also here. If the council agrees, we would ask that a special temporary permit issue.
Thank you. Josh or Mike, do you want to?
So can I just ask a question? So the way this looks, so it's like 2 feet above the ground. If this is in the basement, is that how it works? Or the?
Speak to that. So on the.
Come up and.
Josh Parks on behalf of the property owner. Good to see you all again. So the fence is 6 feet tall. The containers are about 8 feet tall. So what the idea is to build the details of it. Are sort of in flux, sort of depending upon the construction that needs to be there. But what it will be is like a 2-foot riser, essentially, most likely like a white painted plywood riser. So that it elevates the fence up to, closer towards the top of the container to minimize the view. And as Ms. Browning said, on the Chapel Street side, it'll just be the 6-foot fence fixed to the ground. Does that answer?
Yeah.
So this is just like window dressing for the containers. That's what this is.
Correct. Yes. Which is what we understood was sort of the visual problem.
And the tents. It's going to go all the way down Water Street to Chapel and then go up Chapel.
Our
So
intent,
it's going to encircle the entire lot.
it'll run down the Water Street side, goes to turn down Chapel. And then we hadn't intended to run all the way down Chapel.
I thought you had, sorry.
Some length down Chapel, right? The hotel went, I forget how many feet exactly down, but to, make that corner to help shield the view from, if you're on Water Street looking to the southeast, I guess.
What if you're at the ice cream place? What are you looking at?
The ice cream place that's next to Oddfellows.
Below it.
There won't be any fencing on Weldon Way because that's the operation of the business currently or the business.
So,
There won't be a white.
so not that I've ever been to the ice cream place.
Sure.
But, I think Molly is asking about that property line from Water Street to Weldon's Way that runs along Oddfellows. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
So-
walkway.
Yeah.
Oh.
So we had discussed.
Yeah.
I'm using this. We hadn't discussed or planned on putting fencing on what would be is it the east side of the property?
That'd be
That east
the
of
south
property.
side.
South side.
So if I'm driving north on Weldon's Way, I'm still looking at containers and chaos and I'm still looking at it all. Like the fences are just window dressing on 2 sides.
Correct.
Not,
Correct. I mean, the moped and bike rental operation has always been on Weldon's Way there. That's sort of traditionally just been the back of the harbor side and then the back of Island Moped. So we
right,
had.
but I'm not addressing mopeds, I'm addressing containers that when
Sure.
you drive north on Weldon's Way, you're looking at containers and
Sure. I mean, I do think it's difficult, if not impossible, to fully enclose them and still be able to, use the containers for the reason that they need to be on the property for. The goal, what we had discussed and what we had understood from prior, appearances before the council and in subsequent conversations was that the primary issue is really the visual as you, as you enter Block Island and folks come off the ferry and, what you see when you sort of first come onto Water Street.
So you're worried about what somebody coming from the mainland sees. I drive down Weldon's Way about 43 times a day, and I'm more worried about what I see. So I'm just gonna say, I'm gonna be selfish here. I see all of that. Why can't it be covered on that side also?
I think operationally that just it doesn't work, given how mopeds and bicycles and whatnot flow in and out of that property onto Weldon's Way.
No, I think
not
she's saying where there
talking-
would have been the existing side of the former building.
I'm talking about the.
You want to run down the
south
alleyway?
Side of the lot that is between the two properties.
We get deliveries. The UPS comes in there, Cisco comes in there, get a fence there, they won't be able to access the containers. But the coffee shop has, supplies, the hotel has supplies. We'll be able to access it. If the fence is there.
Right, but I mean, like Home Depot doesn't make a gate.
I'm sorry, I think you're talking about the existing, yeah, I see what Mike's saying, like, not extending further than where the building went, but having a wall from where the building ended all the way to Water Street. So basically having a box. So two sides and a front is what she's saying.
The alleyway is so high, it's hard. Can't put it there. You can't see the containers. As you walk down the alleyway, you don't see the containers. This is only temporary too. We're talking, it could be up there 2 months. As soon as
But-
you start building.
Yeah, where was gonna be my question, where are we at on building?
So I can speak to that, and I have what I hope you'll consider good news. So we're going to be before HDC next week on what's a slightly reduced plan from what had been before, or would have been put before. The prior plan that was submitted required a zoning variance as to height. Essentially what's happened is a floor has been chopped out of that building to no longer require a zoning variance. So now it just needs HDC variance, which has HDC permission, which has a couple of benefits. A, you don't need to spend the time, energy, what have you, going for zoning. B, it's more cost effective to build, which should make the project shovel ready, frankly, as soon as all the permissions are in place. So that's the hope is to get this shovel ready ASAP. I mean, if you can start digging a foundation before year's end, awesome. Realistically, given all the various approvals you need, is that likely to happen? Maybe not, but that's the goal. I only have one copy, I apologize. I have sort of like a rendering of what it'll look like if you care to see, but so the goal is to, frankly, this fencing piece that we're here on now, the goal frankly is to have this up there for as little as possible, because the sooner the hotel gets made, the sooner it's generating revenue, the sooner everybody's happy with how the properties looked, and frankly, the sooner it's being put to a higher and better use.
What time that meeting is on Monday?
I know it's the 28th, I don't know the time.
So if all approved, building
I'd
starts
love you.
As
soon as
you
possible.
can get approved.
Right.
It looks like a lot like the old one, just shorter.
Oh, goodness, I'm sorry, that was an inside baseball.
Stick with-
I didn't hear it, that's
I
all
apologize.
good.
Didn't have anything to do with you, it had to do with the HDC and the time of the meeting, that just made me laugh, sorry.
I think I might be wrong.
I don't know, I feel like I'm being a stickler on this, but
No,
I
go ahead.
don't understand why, if you're gonna face the containers so that we're not looking at the containers, why would you skip the south side? Why wouldn't you consider the north, the east, and the south? Obviously, the west side is open, right?
Like, can you do the fence down to where the old building ended? This is what Neil was asking. Okay, so that would be the south
On
side,
the south
down
side
to
is-
where the pre-existing harbor side ended. So that wasn't all the way to the street.
Yeah, because they still have
It
to
was-
access.
It was, you know,
Talking about the alleyway,
yeah,
the coffee shop accesses that little stairs there to get. in.
but you could stop it there so they can, yeah. Does that make sense? Are you following? So if you're walking from Water Street to Weldon's Way
Right.
with Oddfellows on your left,
No,
the fence, no, I'm sorry, I'm thinking out loud
yeah,
too.
okay.
The alleyway on one side would be Oddfellows and on the other side would be fence with an opening where the stairs are that allows Oddfellows to go down and access. And then after that would continue down to where the pre-existing harbor side ended.
Right. I just think that would look more consistent and address the full problem, not just, I mean, sure, I think absolutely we should make it look nicer for visitors, 100%. But I think we also have to make it look nicer for people who live here, and they're gonna have to look at this all winter and possibly all next summer. I mean,
I think, thank you.
What, anybody want to talk about the Andrew Dog shows?
I'm sorry?
It's not your.
Not until I know what time the HDC meeting is.
I'm apparently the only person in town who, the place burned down for pity's sakes. And, we seem to be focusing on the wrong things. And there's all kinds of stuff in town. How long did the Gothic have a container out there after they had their fire? 3 years or something? And, I don't remember anybody talking about fences. There's something that's not, it's hypocritical about this whole process.
Well, so I was actually going to say the same thing, similar. I think where Martha was going is we have to do a better job of being consistent on this. And it's why one of the items is on here that I want to talk about next. So if we have an ordinance around the shipping containers, we've got to enforce it when they're there. We have to put people on notice that they can't stay, get temporary, whatever it is. And then my second piece of this was, where did we land on tents? Because they're not the only one with tents.
We sent a note, a request to the planning board, which is our process.
Right.
To create a tent ordinance. It was received. I attended the planning board and walked them through what the council had talked about, and now it's on the planning
Perfect.
board's
Great.
agenda. So you guys, we all understand what this is going to look like. It's going to, the south side now, the east side and the north side.
Now, is it going to, I noticed that you've allowed one of your tenants to have a shop now tented there. If we put the fence up, how are they going to get to that shop, or the shop will be closed by then?
I mean, I didn't charge them, they were just
Okay.
extra inventory they had to
Okay.
sell. They were fine, they used to be in there.
So how long would this special temporary permit last?
By ordinance, it's 6 months
6
with an
months?
option for an additional 6-month extension if they request it.
Great. So if you're in this, if there are delay, God knows, construction, can we talk about tent color next year?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
And back up on this, what actually are you asking for?
We're asking for a temporary permit
Sure.
to the section 112 special temporary permit to do the fencing as proposed with the additions that we just discussed along the south side.
If I could just clarify that for just a moment, what they're actually asking for is to keep tents and storage containers on the property which they otherwise would not be able to do because it's not allowed by zoning. The
That-
council has the power to give them a special permit.
That's what I was trying to get at. I don't think.
The fencing
the
was
fence couldn't
for
be-
screening.
The fencing could be put up, it's not allowed use.
Well, the
It is for
understanding.
Anybody else in town.
The last time we were here, I think that the council felt strongly that if you were going to entertain such a request for a permit to allow the tents and the containers, that it was important to screen the property. And that's why we were set to work together to come up with something. So you're right, that what they're actually asking for is to keep tents and storage containers.
Yeah.
But we heard the request to please make it look better by screening it.
Look better.
Thank you.
Now, just one more question on that. So from this type of fencing, would it be approved otherwise if someone was using this type of fencing?
I apologize if that was.
So if someone was to use this fencing take Harborside completely out of this, from a historic district, would this type of fencing be approved?
I don't know, that would be up to the historic district.
So are we going to historic district on that?
No, you do not
This
need to
would
go
be
to historic on
bypass
that.
this?
You would bypass it because you have the power as the council to issue the permit.
But that's a good question. I mean, Martha, do you know, or you're on that?
I'm not going near this.
Okay, fair enough.
If it's a temporary permit, it's a temporary permit.
So 6 months is,
Any other questions?
Unless you're the town, in which case it's 3 years.
Any other questions? Are people comfortable? I,
6 months takes us to February.
Yeah.
Right? And you said then we have the ability to extend it.
If for another 6 months, if the
Right.
applicant asks for it, they have to come back to you and you have an opportunity to extend.
Which would be August.
But if they're gonna be, if all goes well and they're building, they need to take it down anyway, so.
I just, I want to say, I know, the amount of time that you guys, you know, you and Elizabeth Noonan have put into it, how much time you've put into it, Mike, how much time you've put into it, Karen, how much time you've been, and I really appreciate that. You know, I think this is a good faith effort to solve what is hopefully a very temporary problem, and I really appreciate that. So can we have a motion to grant this special temporary permit? Second? No second? All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. Thank you.
Thank you.
The only thing that was understood that that's 3 sides
Yes, yeah,
with that amendment. So
yeah. Understood by me, but thank you for asking. Clearly. Next, item is, discuss and act on request of Attorney Elizabeth Noonan on behalf of the various moped licensees, requesting the town consider reconstituting the safety committee on mopeds and bicycles. This is the Moped Safety Committee. You'll recall, bye Karen, you recall, on a consent calendar recently, we had correspondence from Elizabeth Noonan making this request. I didn't expect I expect that the council's gonna want to talk about and ruminate about this, but I didn't want it to get sort of lost by the wayside, because I think there certainly is some merit as to what it looks like, who's on it, all those kinds of things. We have some discussions that we have to have with either council or the moped licensees themselves about what that looks like. Again, I'd like to keep this on our agenda, over the next several weeks to figure out how to set that up, if people are okay with that.
yeah, so it says reconstituting. When was the last time there was a safety?
I would say 8 years, yeah, 10 years, something like that. It's been,
Before my time.
yeah, it's been a while.
Okay.
It's been a while. So, 2007. So anyway, just, for when we put this stuff together. Item 12,
So wait. So
Yeah.
why are we having a discussion on it? Like, is it,
well, if you're prepared to,
well, I mean,
I'm not.
oh, okay. Right.
Because I'm not sure what I think about it, what the structure ought to be, whether we're gonna serve on it, whether it's gonna be people from the community serve on it. What are the things we would want a moped safety committee to tackle? Because I think just setting it up is a recipe for, sort of months of, maybe not getting much done. So that's my feeling about it. And I just, hadn't prepared for it.
Okay,
to be honest.
so from a council perspective, we're all directionally, this makes sense that we should have it, correct?
I think so.
Or not?
I don't think we should have a moped safety committee. I think we should have a,
Safety.
what is out there on the road on any given day in the summertimes committee.
Mhm.
It's, the traffic is a little too broad.
Scooters.
We're not gonna get cars involved and we'll never get it.
No, that makes sense,
Yeah, that
Martha.
makes a lot.
But
Yeah.
it's Scooters, it's the,
Those single wheel things.
I mean,
Carlos.
I didn't want two-wheel traffic from Bridgeport to Rebecca. That didn't go anywhere.
I hear Bill's an expert at these types of vehicles.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Carlos, did you want to speak?
I just want to say really quickly, I wouldn't want to act on this without getting input from the police department
Mhm.
and Respect Block Island did a lot of work on traffic.
Yeah. No, I agree. I just wanted to make sure we were all directionally, that this is where we want to go.
Sure.
And because obviously they've approached us about it to partner with us, and I wanted to be clear, we are looking to do this, so.
Carlos?
Carlos Salinas from Horneck Road. I wanted to recall your attention to the May 17th Block Island Times article, where I wrote about the April 25th and April 30th hearings in Providence about this issue. And one of the things that struck me, there was a lot of bemoaning this lack of this commission and the end of the truce and what have you. And there was the moped operators that testified and their allies, had a fairly similar approach. And one of the things that they kept coming up with was, well, of course, we're for safety and we want to make sure there's not open-toed shoes. And the town manager made a very clear presentation about what happens with these open-toed shoes when they hit the pavement at 20 miles per hour. You may recall Dr. Warkup had written a memo also about the strain and the burden of the safety issue created by the mopeds and bikes. And it seemed, if you look at it from the outside and that's all you have are words and proposals for commissions and committees, it seems all very reasonable until you're out on Horneck Road, as I have been these past weeks, and seeing one open-toed shoe after another coming through. So if it's that simple, why hasn't it been done? Why do we need a commission? Why can't they just unilaterally ensure that there's no open-toed shoes? So I would just add that and suggest you look at that article again. And I have the transcripts because I, did the transcripts for both hearings. So if you want to avail yourselves of them, please let me know.
Terrific. Thank you.
You want to take that, Mary, or should I?
Why don't you?
That was after the summer of 2020, or toward the end of 2020, which was by all accounts a horrific summer on Block Island.
from everything. And I know there's a core group of people who want to say it was only mopeds. I think most of us recall the first fatality was a 17-year-old from Fairfield County at noon. I saw the ambulance go by and I knew it was fatal because you can tell by the way the ambulances go by. And then the summer just got worse. And we had a working group. It was the town manager, it was me, the town manager's assistant, the the current police chief, who was at the time lieutenant, I think. And I think that was it, and some of the moped dealers, operators. And among the things that we had on a short list of what we consider to be low-hanging fruit, maybe we can make some little bit of difference, was shoes. And that was thrown out because it was, I can't remember even what it was called. Insulting, it was, Mary, do you remember the words that were used? It was really vile. And it was someone, I'm not running for office again, obviously, I'm gonna say what happened. It's on a tape. And that was Respect Block On said this was an insult to even consider this, we shouldn't even be looking at it, and it got thrown out. Very simple. That's the kind of politics we're talking about. And the moped people, believe, all due respect, Mike, the moped people aren't saints either. They've done lots of things that could have been done differently, but that summer I felt that was the first time in a very long time that people were trying to work together and got blown away.
So Millie, as I said earlier, yes, Josh.
Thank you. Just very briefly, because it's on the agenda. Again, Josh Parks. I work, as you know, with Ms. Noonan and represent the moped operators. And thank you for putting this on your agenda and continuing to discuss. And I just wanted it to be known, I'm here also on behalf of moped operators. I anticipate being out here again and
Terrific.
look forward to working.
Thank you, Josh. Appreciate that. Item 12, defining guidelines for town council communication with governing body. Neil?
Yeah, so again, this is just, I think we do it, but I just wanted to make sure the town we're always consistent as a council when things get addressed. The car rentals have come up. There was someone serving alcohol that their state license didn't allow. Just being prepared when the town is going to jump into stuff, and regardless of who it is, whether we like them or not, that we're not getting in that. If a resident has raised a concern that there's a violation around someone's license that we don't own, that we are always going after them. We bring it to a vote and we send whatever appropriate letter is. So we can use Susan Gibbons as a great example where we did just that. So being new, I wanted to make sure we were clear on that, because I don't want it to look like we're always going after the same people and we're turning a blind eye to people who aren't problems as perceived by the community. So just for fairness, when this comes up. Now, the one with the liquor license, the great thing was, once Millie addressed what their state license could do, they stopped doing it. So behavior change, we didn't need to send a letter. They thought it was in the right of their liquor license for their catering. It wasn't. So problem solved. But I just wanted that is our protocol, correct?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's all I wanted to say.
Yeah. Thank you.
I think right now, this was earlier on the consent agenda, we're having a lot of questions regarding rental cars.
Rental cars,
That falls into this as well.
Correct.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Because just the concern was raised around rental cars. The town, it's a state license, but the town has the control on the numbers and who owns monitoring it. So a letter, my understanding, has been sent on that issue.
My understanding, Marianne, is that there are notices pending.
Correct. There's a couple of zoning complaints were filed and they're currently under review and investigation.
Great.
They're taking a little longer than anticipated to make sure we get all the investigative work done. Other parties that submitted the complaints have been notified of that. And yes, last night at 5:30, 6 o'clock, I was on the phone with Karen and Nick, James, I'm sorry. And as we unravel some stuff, because it is state licenses that are issued, and we'll come across a few more things, so we're still investigating.
Great. Thank you, Neil, for bringing that up. Discuss an act on the allocation of ARPA funds to finance mental health and or community activities for the island. I don't want to toss this at you, Molly, but do you want to speak about this?
But
I will.
Marianne, why don't you
Want me
talk
to-
Oh,
about
great,
this first?
terrific, wonderful.
A group of us met and Marianne was in that group.
Great.
So at the request of the council, if you remember the last meeting, I think it was the first one requested that myself, Molly, Amy, and our new Human Service Director, Allison, meet and discuss this. So we did. We met on Monday and it was a great meeting. It was a good brainstorm meeting. We came up with a number of ideas. During this meeting, what we focused on was strictly community-based programs and also mental health programs. We came up with a couple of ideas at this point. And also we talked about most likely macro grants. Make 2 macro grants for these and then we'll do some mini grants proposed and open up to anyone in the community that would like to submit the grant. Amy's has other communities have done something similar, so she can have protocols and also application process for it. We thought it'd be about $10,000 to $15,000, which is a total of $20,000. I'm sorry. I'm a CPA. I should be able to do my math, right?
I want you as my account. You just turned 10,000 into 20 in 4 seconds.
So I was trying to find a few more thousand. This was something. So that equals $25,000, which
Yes.
then gives us about $35,000 left over. At this point, what I would recommend, based on after we met, Amy and I had a follow-up discussion as to how we move forward with the remaining 35. What we'd like to do is have you put this on the next agenda and make it broad
Great.
as act and discuss on remaining APRA funds. And we'll come up obviously with this recommendation that the group came up with. And we think we may have 2 other ones. And from those, you can then decide how you want to go. And that way, by December 31st of this year, the funds will
Sure.
be committed, but we don't have to spend them until
Great.
26.
So then the idea would be a resident says we need to focus on X, Y, and Z for youth. Here's what my proposal is to do for that group, and here's the dollars I want, and then the town would just basically monitor to make sure.
Review and-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we didn't really get that far into the details of it, right?
Yeah,
But conceptually, that's
Usually,
where
no.
you're gonna,
In application, there would be a group that was tasked with reading the applications and awarding funds, and then there would be some responsibility for reporting on the activity. You know,
Wonderful. Amy.
so then that leaves, what did you say, 35?
35,000.
Okay,
And
and
we have a couple of ideas that will come forward. It won't cover all the projects that we're looking at, but it'll be something to think about and chat about.
Amy, financial reports?
So you do have the July financials in front of you. Obviously, it's the very beginning of a fresh new fiscal year. So there's not too much to call your attention to. We're really just getting used to the new line items. We do have the newly established Human Services Department, which is on page 11, Department 1028, under the guidance of the Human Services Director. So that is in there. In terms of seasonal revenue during July, New Harbor and the beach off a little bit from last year, nothing dramatic, but last year happened to be an exceptional year. Old Harbor is actually higher substantially.
Huh, interesting.
So they just continue to increase revenue every year, which is great. But everything else, it's a little too early to see any
Yeah,
meaningful
right.
trends with. Some of the other things we have going on, obviously the tax bills went out. The mill rate was $5.52.
Again, we're taxing at 100% of assessed value. That's a change from 80% for anyone who missed that when we did it. And then with those tax bills, we did include the homestead exemption for the first time. So we had 235 eligible applicants for a total of $53 million of assessed value that was exempted. The total tax amount represented there is just over $293,000 of taxes. On the other side, we talked about what does that do for
Right.
the rest of the taxable population? And the change was an increase of about 2.2% to offset that exemption amount.
Gotcha.
Sticking with the theme of the homestead exemption, I would ask the council to think about setting aside time in September to fully report
Yes.
on that, revisit it, and get started on what we talked about being phase two.
Yes.
We don't want to do applications in June again. We'd like to do that between January and March, which means hopefully getting an ordinance passed with any changes we want to make by the end of the calendar year.
Okay.
While we're doing that, we're also going to suggest revising the amounts for the senior exemption and the veterans exemption, which haven't been updated in some time. So that language already exists in the ordinance, but the values are a little out of date. So.
Gotcha. Can you remind me when we start to get a sense of what the meals and hotel taxes are likely to generate? Just what the timeline is for that?
We just got the June numbers, which allows us to look at the full fiscal year for last year. And so in aggregate, both the meals and the hotel were off about 10% for fiscal 24 versus fiscal 23. Again, consistent with what we have heard about the two summer comparisons. Still extraordinary years, very strong, off a little bit. That was more than compensated for, though, by the cottage and rental tax, which was up. I didn't bring the number with me. I want to say at least 12%, maybe more, but I'll get back to you with that. So that cottage and room resellers is continuing to go up without being able to trace exactly what the sources are, except that we know the dollar values of those nights have just continued to increase.
Sure.
But you're not seeing that same increase on the hotel side, I think, because you have a cap of the number of rooms.
Right.
If they're full, they're full. So.
Right.
So hotels were down by 10%. Yep. Homes were up by 12. Remember, it's cottage and room resellers. So you're also having some noise in there. Jess and I can get together someday and do this dance again.
Yeah.
But you have noise in there that is driven by the platform on which the rental is made. So it's not just home rentals versus hotel rooms. It also involves the distribution process.
Right.
So you mentioned senior and looking at the senior veteran exemption.
Yeah.
What is it today? Because I'm not familiar with it.
I didn't bring the details.
Okay.
But
Don't tell us you're not eligible for these.
Trying to get something. No, but like, what kind of money, you shifted 293 and we don't have to do it now. So so if you're talking about shifting 293 for the first wave of exemption, homestead, then you have the next group.
So these look like so in veteran, we exempted about $52,000 in taxes, and under the seniors, 5,400. Veteran is substantially set by state law. We don't have much latitude in the criteria. We do have latitude in the dollar amount. The senior exemption is much more locally driven. So we'll look at both dollar and criteria.
Great, terrific.
There's one other bit of information on the tangible exemption, which was a new statewide tangible. And that was about $14,000 of new tangible exemption. That in theory, the state is reimbursing us for that lost revenue.
Emphasis on in theory. Great. Any other questions for Amy? Just stay there, Amy, because you're on the next item too, I think, or is it Mary Ann? Yeah, okay. That's what we're about to do. Nope, that's what we're about to do. Receive and act on refund from Greenwood Emergency Vehicles of $57,765 related to the purchase of the ladder truck in 2021.
Sure. The short version is that we got a refund in from the purchase of that vehicle, primarily because they were late in delivering and we had prepaid. So the
Right.
time difference led to a refund. The suggestion is then that we set that aside to offset debt service for the remaining life of the bond, which was a 10-year note. And it matures in 2032. So that would be an offset of about $7,221 a year. So we'd spread it over the remaining life.
Gotcha. So it's not like a mortgage where you could
You
cut it
can't,
for the 57.
if we had opportunity to refinance
Yes,
that,
then you
you
might.
could
Yeah.
do that. The reality is the rate on that bond is 2.14. And so.
How quickly we forget how.
We're not going to do that.
Yeah, right, absolutely.
Now,
Can we borrow more of that?
That said, we cannot get into an arbitrage situation.
Sure,
So that
right.
is not going to sit out there and get
Right.
5 or 8% interest. We
Right.
have to keep it below the bond rate, but.
Are there any questions for Amy about this one? Can I have a motion? I'm sorry, I lost my place. Bear with me for one sec. I have a motion to receive the refund from Greenwood Emergency Vehicles of $57,765 and to ask the town manager or finance director to establish an account to use it to what would the word be?
To establish a debt service reserve to offset bond payments over the remaining life of the
What
bond.
she said. Is there a second? Any discussion? Not all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Thank you, Amy. Mary Ann, it's your moment.
All righty. You all have my town manager's report. This one was a pretty lengthy one, but there is a few things I would like to highlight for the council. Specifically, that with the highway department and DPW, we did purchase, we're in the process of purchasing 2 new trucks. One will be a new truck for harbor, another one new truck will be for use as a utility truck for DPW, the wastewater, building inspector, and others as necessary. The old hopper truck will be repurposed for the highway department. Also, Mike and town engineer Jim Jeremiah has started working on, if the council remembers, we got the authorization of a $1 million bond for paving of town roads projects. That bond is also complemented with funding of a grant of, I think, $300,000, if I'm not mistaken, but a grant through the state. So we do have added revenues also of funding for that project. So they are working on that, and that looks like it'll be a spring project of next year. Also, I want to point out under human services, Allison has hit the ground running. But there's one program that I really would like to point out to the council. There was a Meals on Wheels summer program for students to provide lunches and snacks for those students that qualify for free reduced lunches. It was the first one in the country. It was a pilot program.
Oh, that's great.
And it was well received. It was highly successful. It passed USD, the US lunch program criteria audit. And special thanks, there was 4 people actively involved with that. And Laurie McTee, teacher, Cara Castellano, Augusto Panera Vasquez, and Marguerite Donnelly were involved in delivering and get that program up and running. So that was a wonderful program and very pleased to see
That's
that
great
get off the
stuff.
ground. Yeah. And also, for those of you
You know
that,
offhand how many kids got it?
25,
20, great.
25 lunches and snacks. Yes,
terrific.
so it was a phenomenal program. Also, as the council knows, we did receive an earmark of $3.5 million for the new public safety complex. Senator Jack Reed was out here back on July 17th. And again, we thank him for that. That funding would go a long way to begin some of the designing and ultimately construction of phase 1 of the public safety complex. What I would recommend at this point with the council, because this has really worked out, we've seen with the school, with the building committee, they're required to have a building committee under Rhode Island Department of Education to get the funding and stuff like that. that we look to set up a building committee similar to what we've done. I know there's a building committee that the fire department is working on, but I think it probably should also start following the rules of open meetings so that we can have an ongoing discussion on this, because what they'll be doing is working on the design and getting ready for the funding to present to the voters at the financial town meeting in May. I also would recommend that the council and the town explore hiring an OPM to help spearhead this project and work with an architect. So I just included that in my town manager's report and I'll leave that up to the council.
I think the thing that one of the things the OPM would help us with is I worry about the cart being ahead of the horse here, you know. In other words, you know, you could design almost anything, but, you know, the resources are, you know, are going to end up being the issue. So, having a sense from, people who do, public projects, you know, all over the state, all over the region, of kind of how much particular inputs cost. And I mean, it's not free, but it's almost free to sort of say, well, what if we did this? What if we did that? What if we didn't do this? What if we didn't do that? So, you know, if you would come to us with a recommendation on that, I think it would be welcome.
Mary Ann, when does that money have to be spent by?
So the good news is, because we had a preliminary meeting, myself, Mike, and Amy, with some folks from USDA, because that's the umbrella where the funding is coming from. We're strictly more talking about funding, what are the additional information they need for us to be able to start accessing the funds. And that was one of the top questions we had, and they said, there's no limitation. With that said, I would think we want to get the ball rolling on this.
I was going to say, speaking from highly personal spousal experience, you have to dot in a way that you would hope as a taxpayer. You have to dot a lot of I's and cross a lot of T's. Bill, you get a lot of federal money at the ferry. It's not sitting in an account waiting for us. You know what I mean? Would you agree? You know, so we have a ways.
And will we do any fundraising for that, or that'll all be bond?
My own opinion is there's got to be a fundraising aspect to it, you know? Yeah, that's my sense of it.
Well, because I think, you know, the original idea was, quote me, I might be wrong, but somewhere in the 6 million, and now someone has said it's 10 million to build with the original design. So I don't know if that's accurate, but that's a lot more money than what we got. So
Yeah.
So that's why I'm concerned, just timing wise, and reality of that. And it kind of goes to what you said, which is, hey, we might have put all the apples of everything we wanted, and now we've got to scale it back if it's 10 million. So.
Right.
And just a few more things to go through relatively quickly here. The vermiculite was removed from the school this summer. The project went extremely well. I had a bird's eye view of that project living right across the street. That has been completed. Air quality testing has been done. Inspections have also been done. Also, they completed what we're calling phase 1 of the gymnasium repair from the interior walls, but it's mostly exterior. They finished the interior. They've completed the interior work. They will still work on some of the exterior work while school's in session. Next summer, they'll finish up the interior and the exterior because they won't be doing work, obviously, while school's in session for the interior, and they'll keep, as long as weather's cooperating, they'll continue working on the exterior. I've attached for your information the letter Jim Jeremiah did send out to DEM regarding Ambrose Swamp. And I have confirmation that letter went FedEx and was received by DEM on Friday.
Thank you, and would you pass along our thanks to Jim?
Yeah,
Because I know
he
you had to
did it,
scramble
yeah.
to find an expert and get that done in
They
time.
did that surprisingly very quickly. Also, we are still looking for a part-time planner, 25 hours a month. We haven't been successful. However, I had a good conversation with someone today that I'm encouraged about. We've also received 3 proposals for the Cornet Road Resiliency Strategy Dune Restoration Project. Those RFQs for qualifications are currently under review by different staff members, and, you know, Judy's doing it, Jim Jeremiah's involved, so Mike's involved, so we have folks involved. And finally, I was on a call this afternoon with the governor's office led by Emergency Management Director Mark Pappas. Tripoli is alive and well in Rhode Island. 4 communities have been identified. I think they had this meeting because they anticipated more communities being identified. There's a
Triple
gentleman
what?
named, Equine.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry, you know,
No,
sometimes you live
I
in
saw
the
that.
world
Yes,
so
yes,
much,
yes.
it becomes mosquito
Yes.
stuff. Ken Ayers, who works for DEM, who's been there for 100 years,
Horses.
said the season started earlier than anticipated. So that's why they're thinking there'll be more. And as a reminder to the council, we did have a positive test last year at the Boy Scout camp. And we'll be keeping an eye on it because it isn't until a deep freeze that we see the mosquitoes dissipate. And I think that's all I have.
Any questions from the council? I had one comment I wanted to make. Mike, I'm glad you're here. There's not a day that goes by that I don't sort of remark to myself about how hard the highway crew works there. It doesn't matter what time of day, early in the morning when I'm taking the dog for a walk, or, you know, late in the day when whatever. Please, first, thank you, but please pass along our thanks to that whole team, which is, the island looks great. I know it's not easy to keep it up with all of the traffic and other distractions, but really thank you. Thank you.
Can I ask, so it's in the report about the Mansion Beach bathrooms. So I was just wondering, it says they've been really successful. Are you finding that they're getting used like more than the portable toilets we had down there? Is this a better situation?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, no question. We'll definitely have better numbers at the end of the summer, and I'll be able to compare them with Dylan, what we did with the Porta-Johns and what we have done this summer. But I go down periodically just to check on things and see how it's going, and they're constantly used.
Right.
Yeah.
And like, there's no vandalism or,
When you say that, we just had vandalism last weekend. Graffiti in the men's room, a couple different things,
darn it.
wiped right off.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, we had some special wipes and it took it right off.
Okay.
We had one of the extremely busy days, I guess it was over VJ weekend. Towards the end of the day, the battery had gone down, which runs the pumps and all that. Luckily, it was at the end of the day. I was able to recharge in the morning, so we didn't have a problem. Things were starting to back up, but we got by. We have a backup solar panel, or actually, I should say an additional solar panel that we're going to put on the roof, and an additional battery has been added to it. So that sort of goes to the fact that it's getting more use than it was designed.
Right.
So,
Wow.
Yeah.
Yep.
And do you see like a time where we would be installing these in other locations? Like,
I would love to. Yeah.
like,
My number one spot, in addition to Mansion Beach, is out at the Bluffs, which is a state property, and you know we have talked to them about it. They were interested. Those can be designed any size, and I think out there it might even need to be bigger because that's a steady flow. That's thousands during the day. So, but all in all, very happy.
great.
And we'll have, you know, like I say, better things at the end of the summer, have more numbers.
Right.
Yep.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. All right, item 17, Sea Level Rise Committee would like us to consider renaming them the Coastal Resilience.
Oh, you only think so, Martha, because you attend our meetings.
Go ahead, Judy.
Hi, Judy Gray, Chair of the Block Island Sea Level Rise Committee, and may I just also add my compliments to Mike Shea and the road crew, because I go now to aquarobics at 7 a.m. and those streets are swept. And I really hope that that shows up in the number, in a decrease in numbers of moped and bicycle accidents this year. I hope that there's a way that we can capture that statistic, because the streets are really cool and they're like totally clean in the morning. Anyway, so I'm here to talk to you about a change in the title and mission of the Sea Level Rise Committee. We want to really thank the town council for creating us. I think it was very timely. There are many communities across the state that are standing up similar committees. However, we feel like our mission has crept beyond sea level rise. Sea level rise is inexorable, it's slow, it grows, and it's boring. All of the action and all the stuff we're dealing with is the stuff that rides on top of sea level rise. So it's the storms, it's the freshwater flooding that rides on top of a king tide. It's changes in storm strength and frequency. It's habitat migration. And so we are proposing to you that you broaden our scope to be more consistent with what we're actually dealing with, and call us, instead of a sea level rise committee, which is very specific, to a broader title of a coastal resilience committee. We've also proposed a change in our mission. We thought it was a little bit more specific, and happy to read it, or hopefully you have. But we feel like what we're proposing is more consistent with both our current responsibilities, but also the current trend in the state to identify activities for funding. That if we were a coastal resilience committee that's consistent with the kinds of calls for funding that we're seeing. Do you have any questions?
I do not. Any questions? Can I have a motion to second? Second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Well, Judy, thank you.
Thank
spending
you.
the last 2 hours with us.
Thank you.
Oh.
I'm hanging in here for Carlos.
We also have a request to authorize an advisory committee for the hazard mitigation and flood management plan. This is in your packets or on clerk base.
You want me to answer any questions about this?
I don't think so.
I was gonna say if you need anything, no.
No.
But I think it's pretty straightforward.
Right.
Okay.
Isn't this the, things that are around for winter?
Right, we need to update it.
Right.
And we're running a little behind, but we did get the grant, so we now have someone who's spearheading the project. And the CRS activities, they dictate who should be on it, and so we've identified folks based on that, and then also public stakeholders.
Can I have a motion to authorize an advisory committee for the hazard mitigation and flood management plan? Second, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed, no. Thanks to Stacy for her work on the Block Island Housing Board. Zoning board alternate. I was I don't want to presuppose an outcome, but I was thrilled that Corey was willing to serve there. And I would make a motion to appoint Corey Black to that zoning board alternate position.
Second.
All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it.
I would like to note that we did have 2 letters.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
the
sorry.
first one was simply put off, apparently pending the arrival of the second.
We have for the Conservation Commission, we have an expression of interest from Susan Gibbons. Who we all know, and then, yes.
I just want to point out that there are actually 2 vacancies on this committee. The way that this is showing up on the agenda is that I have one up for action and the second one is showing up in the vacancy notice. The reason for that is because I only had the one letter when we
So
were working
can-
on the agenda.
Can we appoint Carlos and Sue at this meeting?
My sense is that we should probably wait on the second appointment,
Okay.
just,
So Sue's
just to
letter
comply.
came first?
Yes, it did.
Okay. Are any, can I have a motion to appoint Sue Gibbons to the Conservation Commission in a second? Any discussion? Not all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it.
Absolutely no, financial arrangement with the Gibbons whatsoever, but she does keep her horse in the land.
Great. We have vacancies on Commission on Motor Vehicles for Hire, Sewer District, Water District, Conservation Commission, and Police Advisory Commission. Can I have a motion to adjourn? Second, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. We're adjourned.